Now we're going to meet some of our candidates. We'll go ahead and start with Vicki Markussen.
Yes, thank you. Welcome it's funny to welcome people into my house. It's an unusual experience. I'm in a different place than usual, but I do see some names on the list that I recognize, so it's great to see some familiar faces out there. And honestly, thank you for asking the vision question, because everyone starts with, why do you want to be mayor? And I do have a vision for the city, and it is to continuously be named the best place to work, live, and play. And why that matters is because it incorporates things like our quality of life. It incorporates job opportunities. It incorporates diversity. There's actually some set metrics as to how you get recognized to be the best place to live, work, and play. And we need all, to your point, we need all of our neighborhoods, all of the people that I call the neighborhood organizations are boots on the ground. You have the greatest viewpoint of how to make our community a great place to live, a great place to work, a great place to play. So your feedback is really critical. And so what I'm running on, actually probably the thing that's going to matter the most to you and resonate is property taxes. So my belief is to keep it, to hold the line on those. And that impacts renters as well, because the largest percentage of rent is property taxes. So holding the line on that, I've seen the budget. It's going to be a tough budgeting period here. I've met with Valerie, the finance department head, and it's going to be all we can do to hold the line on property taxes. But I think of, I met a 76-year-old woman who said, this is the house my parents built, and keep me in my house. That essentially my property taxes are the only thing that I have to pay, and it's a burden. And if you increase it, I may not be able to continue living here. So I will tell you, I get energized going door to door, because it puts names and faces to who I would be representing. And that is really, honestly, I find it very invigorating. So it's great. The other piece, second thing everybody talks to me about is roads. So I will continue what Mayor Cabot began, which is 6 miles of roads, because nobody likes potholes. And so keeping our roads going. Another piece that I think is impactful for you is our economy. And that sounds really boring, except I'm sure you all realize this. The number, the lowest performing, the most impacted industries in our community because of the pandemic are food and beverage and accommodations. And what that means is people are out of work. Those two industries lost $70 million. The power of the mute button. It's a powerful button. So I was talking about getting people back into work, because as the food and beverage and the accommodations lost 70 million, online sales jumped 60. We've got to start bringing those dollars back into our community. Things are opening up, so getting everything back up and running. Obviously that helps, as you're talking about the free little pantries. I mean, I'm sure you've seen an increase of need out there. The needs are great, and we need to get people back into jobs so that we can get all of our neighborhoods thriving. I am a big supporter, I will tell you, of police. I know you, I've heard a lot of the neighborhood resource officers are very valuable. I am a believer in keeping police funding the same. I think it's a valued resource. We need that. I know that Hamilton is a great resource for you as well. So again, just keeping those connections in place, empowering our neighborhoods, getting past this pandemic so we can thrive again as a community is really important. And one more really important thing about the police funding. So we've seen in Minneapolis what happens when we don't fund our police. Their crime rate went up 21. Most vulnerable ward, it went up 74%. So now they're back to refunding the police because they're realizing they need that front line. That is key to keeping our neighborhoods safe. So I don't want to hog all the time. I understand that questions will be at the end, and I look forward to hearing from the other candidates. Thanks for having me.
Very good. And actually, I was going to give you a few extra seconds because we had the little mic kerfuffle, and it took me a hot oh, there's the timer. Took
There's
me
the
a
timer.
quick second to find, yes, that mute function. I'm used to Dan being hot on getting that for me, but I accidentally took control.
That's okay. You can give the time to someone else.
Okay. It was only about 20 seconds, so we're good.
How about vote for Vicki? There you go.
There you go. All right, and I see that our other mayoral candidate was able to join us. So great timing, Mitch. So we're going to go ahead and do your 5 minutes. I know you've spoken to us before, but you know that's a couple months ago. Things continue to evolve in one's campaigns, and so we're going to give you, and we have new faces here this evening too. So give you an opportunity to once again kind of share your vision for City of La Crosse and the rural neighborhoods play in that from your perspective. And I'll mute myself. And just so for everyone, again, reminding everyone we are recording it.
Well, thanks so much. And I apologize for showing up late to the party. I just want to make it clear that I'm so impressed with how our neighborhood associations over the years have been able to impact city policy on the granular level, building upwards, pushing upwards policy. So we work with neighbors and then we push upwards in policy in City Hall. And I think it's just remarkable and commendable. And I'm so happy that the voices of our neighbors and the people in the City of La Crosse are having an impact on policy. I was so pleased to, and it was just completely unexpected, but so pleased to have the support of Sarah Sullivan, who many of you know is the very first chair of the Neighborhood Revitalization Commission within the City of La Crosse. And she reached out to me. As many of you know, she's moved to Washington to be with her granddaughter, but still is very focused a lot on what's going on in our community. And Sarah reached out to me and asked if it was okay if she provided her endorsement for our campaign in relation to the mayor of the City of La Crosse. And I certainly said yes, because she is iconic within this community. We have a neighborhood award that's named after her, as a matter of fact. So to get the endorsement of Sarah Sullivan is pretty remarkable. And I think it shows my focus on making sure that we're supporting not only the individuals, but our neighborhoods, and making sure that we're focusing on the things that are important within our neighborhoods, and how the quality of life within our neighborhoods is so essential for the health of our greater community. And I'm just so pleased to have an opportunity to move the needle a little bit on how we can focus on neighborhoods and how we can make our neighborhoods better. And I just, like, when I was at Polk Park the other day, receiving the endorsement from Livable Neighborhoods, and I talked briefly about how that park came to be and how impactful that has been really on the neighborhood, and my very, very small part in that. And I was just, it was such a wonderful thing and so gratifying. And I spoke during the dedication ceremony of the park, because it was, again, an incredibly small part. I just want to make that very clear, that all I did was tell a story about George Pogue that had not been told in our community, and how impactful he had been as a student and a student athlete, and as a citizen, and as the first African-American Olympic medalist within the United States. And just basically told a story and did an interview on the air on WIZM. And Steve Caroline, the former Parks director, heard that, and then the light bulb went off, and he decided to rededicate Hood Park in honor of George Pogue. And I told that story and talked about how important it is to utilize stories to really impact our community and impact our quality of life. And really it can be the story that's the grain for change within our community. And I feel like that is kind of what has happened in some respects with our neighborhoods as well. Our neighborhood associations have at a very small level have grown and grown and grown, and been able to push policy so that we're really focusing on the needs of our neighborhoods. And I certainly appreciate that, and I will continue that, because my goal as the mayor of the city of La Crosse is to get as much input as I can from the people of the city of La Crosse and to serve the needs of the people of the city of La Crosse, and to continue to do that so that we are addressing key quality of life issues and the things that are important in our communities. And some of the things that are important in our communities are, you know, in relation to the livable neighborhoods discussion we had the other day, the issue of adding more concrete lanes to the city of La Crosse, which I definitively and unequivocally advocated against over and over again from the beginning of this campaign. You know, also making sure that we have affordable and quality housing, improving our housing stock within the city of La Crosse so that neighborhoods have a vibrancy and a health that we just can't gain in some other ways because of sometimes how we have challenging housing situations. And then really addressing the very core issues that go to the heart of some of our criminal justice issues and those socioeconomic impacts that we need to address proactively so that we're influencing those issues that often lead to over policing in our neighborhoods as well. You know, I just stepped away from a criminal justice management council meeting not that long ago, where there was a long string of people that were very disappointed in our police response to a citizen member of the Criminal Justice Management Council and her reaction to policing in general within the United States. And she felt threatened, and her life has changed, frankly, in an incredibly negative way because of the harassment from our own police, which is just devastating to me. It is awful to hear. And I would like to certainly address that at some point, but it's just an incredible blow to our community when we have citizens who are willing to serve our community, who are then targeted by our own police for their service. It's horrible and it's devastating. And I think that we can do better than that. And I think we can do that in a proactive way so that we're addressing the needs of our community and our neighborhoods, but also so that we're building long-lasting and solid and stable relationships with our police in the city of La Crosse. So anyway, thank you so much. If you'd like to learn more about me, check out my website, mitchreynolds.com. There's email information there, phone information there. If you'd like to call me or email me and find out more about where I stand on issues, actually where I stand on issues, not what you perhaps have been told about where I stand on issues, but I'd like to address those certainly at any time and at your convenience. Again, that's mitchreynolds.com. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you. Now, my plan had been to kind of work right through numerically through the council districts, but I'm going to let Jennifer do a last minute change. I'll let her jump ahead because she's got a jet. I want to still give her 5 minutes, and then she's gonna have to give her or make her leave. But Jennifer, if you can give us those 5 minutes, you can have it.
Okay, thanks so much. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks for everybody to be here to meet all of the candidates. Some of you I already know, but I see some new faces here. So my name is Jennifer Trost, and I'm running in District 11. And I've lived in other college towns over the years, but this is the first place I've lived where I know my neighbors and we help each other. And I want others to also have that same feeling of being accepted, of being listened to, of being welcomed. And I want them to have positive interactions with government like I've had. And so I immediately fell in with a group of neighbors when I first got here, and we worked to keep the branch libraries open. And that put me in contact with other neighborhood leaders, other city officials appointed and elected. And we started a neighborhood association. Holy Trinity Longfellow Neighborhood Association is one of the more recent ones. And like others have said, we have a wave of neighborhood associations over the last 10 years. And so I was the chair of that for a little while. And in 2015, the mayor appointed me to the Neighborhood Revitalization Commission. And so I've been on that since 2015. And that has brought me in contact with a lot of city officials, with staff, with other residents. And I've really learned a lot about the process of government and the work that the staff do. And sometimes it's invisible. And sometimes they have constraints about what they can and cannot do. But I have a lot of respect for the work that the city does. And in my conversations with some of the voters, they've said they want fairness, that they want equitable interactions between themselves and city departments and city staff. And they're looking for the city to help equalize opportunities. And that comes into play when it comes to issues of housing and the city having a forward housing policy, taking some of these essential necessities away from strictly market functions, but putting a floor under them. And certainly one of the things that I think that is guiding my philosophy of running for council is that no one person's gain is another person's loss, and that everybody is better when we're all at the table, and we're all better when we're all raised up. And I think that that's what a lot of residents are looking for from the city, is to sort of balance out some of the inequity that exists in the market, that might exist in services. And so that's why I'm looking forward to being on city council if I'm elected, to represent people who might not be able to go to those meetings, to show them how to access the agendas, to show them how to read the agendas, because they're very complicated. And I've just gone through that process myself. And so I am not an expert by any means, but I want to sort of share the ability to participate in the process that we're all affected by, whether or not we have a voice in it. And so that's one of the things I want to do, is get more people involved in the process of government, and particularly to focus on livable neighborhoods, which is to have, you know, a fair housing for households of all means and situations, neighborhoods that are welcoming, that are accessible to a variety of mobilities that people might have. We want cities built for people. We want them to be places that someone wants to live. We don't want our streets to be clogged with cars. Obviously, you know, parking is important, but we really want to prioritize people and the places that they live and work. And so my work on the Neighborhood Revitalization Commission has consisted of a lot of parking regulations, and that's actually one of the things that Tim is going to be talking about tonight. Parking benefit district is something else that also came out of the Neighborhood Revitalization Commission. So yeah, that's what I'm interested in doing, is contributing to neighborhoods that are accessible and welcoming, so that folks feel the same way that I have been able to feel. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. And I know you've got to run. Is it okay if I share your email in the comments, or do you have a specific email you'd want that directed to?
Yeah, just drop that in the comments yourself if you're able to. Quick, thank you.
Perfect. And then we understand about having, and it's been a popular day, and people have to, you know, everyone's lives are busy. So I'm so glad you could share those few minutes with us. I appreciate it. Well, there's the timer. You've all been pretty good on that timer. So one thing I wanted to clarify is that you're thinking, why do we have 3 different districts we're talking about? Our neighborhood is unique, where I think compared to some other neighborhoods, we have, I'd have to look at it, but Phil, or if you recall, if any other neighborhoods have 3 different council reps, but some of them are real small, like District 9 takes a big chunk of ours, but 8 and 11 also kind of gets that one side. So we get I think the extra benefit of having 3 sets of eyes, you know, looking on us and being a guide or a option for us to reach out to working with our council members, because we've had a long history of, thanks Jennifer, of having the last few years, having Phil's wisdom and guidance and help as our current council member. Now he's retiring, but we'll still get to use that knowledge. That's why we have three different districts talking this evening. So going back in order, we'll jump back. That was District 11. There's one other candidate for District 11, but again, that was the person where I unfortunately could not track down an email. So they were given an opportunity. Whether they saw the message, I don't know. So it's not that they're not here because they didn't care. It's just, it was kind of hard to get a hold of them. So we'll jump back to District 8, and we have Mackenzie Mindel to speak to us next. Go ahead.
Thanks, and thanks everybody for having me and for making this opportunity available. My name is Mackenzie Mindel. I've lived in the Cooley region for my whole life. Yeah, it's Mindel. I know it looks like Mindel, but it's okay, don't worry about it. I've lived in District 8 for 8 years. However, 4 of those have been as a renter in the Washburn neighborhood, and 4 of those have been in the Wagon-Hogan neighborhood, where my husband and I bought a house 4 years ago. Over the last 10 years, I've spent my time engaging in community development and volunteering. I've served on boards within the neighborhoods, worked with the Washburn neighborhood, Washburn Garden. I have served on boards that work to protect assets like the Washburn Garden, as well as worked in the local community for for-profit organizations and nonprofit organizations. And I attended school at UWL with a degree in philosophy, environmental studies, and Chinese. And then afterward, I commuted to Madison to earn my master's degree in social innovation and sustainability leadership. Yes, while I was living in La Crosse, I commuted multiple times a week because my husband and I wanted to stay here, and I didn't want to leave. But and with that degree, my emphasis was on innovative community engagement and community leadership, specifically with community development, city planning and comprehensive planning, and economic development, and engaging people around issues that they care about to creatively develop solutions to complex issues together, instead of assuming that our elected officials have all of the answers. Really lifting up the community because we believe they have the creative solutions with their own lived experience to bring forward. And I also got advanced certifications in conflict resolution, facilitation, and mediation, which I think would be really beneficial when we engage with the community. We know that communities often have differing belief systems. And I think it's important that as a community, you know, these rich civic centers, which cities are supposed to be, and in these little neighborhoods, that we make sure that we are bringing people together and having conversations that are productive and that can help get at some of the ways that we can move forward together, especially in the midst of challenging economic times. And the pandemic is bringing struggles for people in many ways. In addition to that, some of my values that I see as a resident in La Crosse, I value libraries. My husband is a librarian. We value historic preservation is one of my things that I love about La Crosse. We bought an old home because we recognize the quality of housing in La Crosse is older, and we see that as an asset. We've been working on restoring our 1913 home as close as possible to passive standards. And it's been exciting to see that as something that we just did on our own, and watching the neighborhood around us shift as they see the inspiration from that. In 2020, I had bye Vicki. I had my first daughter, or my first baby, my daughter. And then unfortunately, I lost my job due to the pandemic. So I understand firsthand some of the struggles that people in our community are going through. And so I want to run on council because I bring unique skills and education to the table, which I think will be valuable to the process of creating solutions and envisioning a city that we all want to see. And also to bring representation as a young mom, as someone who lost their job during the pandemic, and who can see that can bring that perspective to the table. And my vision for the city is really focusing on affordable quality housing for everyone, making sure that we move forward with environmental action and build economic resilience, and then use a community-driven approach, which simply is using the expertise of the community to create these solutions that actually have a real chance at sustainable change and bringing people together. Furthermore, I want to address the issue that we have, which is urban sprawl, and having La Crosse be a place where people can work. And if they work in La Crosse, they can afford to live here. I think it's very concerning that we have people who work in La Crosse that seek housing outside of the city and bring their tax dollars with them, and all of the implications that that brings. And our talented planning department is well aware of those issues, and we're grateful. I'm grateful that we have such a skilled set of planners and community development professionals in this city. I also want, my vision for La Crosse, it's interesting because to me is that I don't claim to know what people want. I want to listen to the community to learn what they envision. I don't have any solutions. I don't have like prescriptive solutions to offer the community. I just recognize that facilitating as a council member is what I want to do. And that's what I see with neighborhood associations. They're made up of people who really care about their community. And as a council person, I recognize that my job is to engage, is to increase engagement and be a conduit from the neighborhood associations to the council to make decisions, to inspire meaningful engagement, to make sure that the community and everyone in the community feels meaningfully engaged in the decision-making process and making it more accessible. Lastly, I want, as a council person, I want to support our planning department and other staff as a council person, instead of, like trying to accidentally do their jobs, which I think sometimes we have a tendency to do in certain roles. So really further supporting the planning department so that they can do the really important work that they do within our city alongside our community members. Thanks.
All right, thank you. As a fellow old house owner, we'll have to, yes, I know, ours is 18, I always get it messed up, Dan,
1886.
1886.
A lot of the houses on Johnson Street, 1886.
Okay, good to know, because we've had.
Ask. According to the city, it's 1872. According to what I think, it's 1882. But anyway.
Yeah, we've gotten different dates all the time.
We get different. Our actual paperwork says 1872, but I believe it's 1882.
Something like that. So we'll have to trade secrets and tips. So sometime. Totally. So perfect. Thank you. The other person running for District 8, who again appreciated the extended offer, but they had to send their apologies, was Samuel Dietz, just so that I'm sharing all the information. Then we will go to, for District 9, I have Chris Woodard, who will be speaking next.
Thank you guys for letting me speak tonight. Yeah, just want to start off in introduce myself, I'm Chris Woodard, running for District Number 9 Council. A little bit about myself here. Me and my wife bought our house here on Ferry Street about 3 years ago. At that point, it was a kind of a dilapidated house, and we took advantage of the renovation programs that the city has to offer, and really renovated it to what it is now. And kind of everybody says it's the center of the street. Prior to that, we lived in a rental duplex down on Muddy Flats, so we've been in the general area for about 6 years. I have a wife and a daughter. Very concerned about neighborhood safety because, of course, we got to protect them. Couple other things. I am on the Neighborhood Revitalization Commission, also the chair of the Washburn Neighborhood Association. Recently was endorsed by the Crosse Professional Police Association. Member over here at Our Saviors Lutheran, and then member of the Lacrosse Curling Club. So there's a little bit about myself. A couple things that I'd like to see, change or maybe get better is, like I said, neighborhood safety. That's a very important thing for both of our neighborhoods. We've seen a lot of things going on, and it's getting better, but there's still always room for improvement. And there's several ways we can work on improving that, whether it's through improving the housing stock. It's amazing what cleaning up these houses will do to the neighborhood. Also, revitalizing those aging houses and creating some affordable quality housing in the neighborhood will really help things out as well. Along the lines of what Vicki was saying, we definitely need to promote our economy, or promote our city, and jumpstart that economy, because without that economy, we're not going to go anywhere. I'd also like to continue building up our neighborhoods. We're already doing a very good job in both neighborhoods of doing that. Another thing that nobody really mentioned was the homeless crisis. That's something we really need to get all the surrounding communities involved in, all the stakeholders, community members, and getting everybody to the table and talking about solutions, not one person working on one thing and one person working on another. We all need to collaborate. And many have said I'm a great collaborator, so I think I'd be glad to take charge on that and work and getting everybody on the same page. Couple other things that I'd like to see are more programs for minorities, for both home ownership and minority-owned businesses. It's just a great thing to promote diversity in the city here. And lastly, I want to be your voice down at City Hall. So I'm asking for your vote on April 6th or prior, whenever you get your ballot. So thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Chris. Let me just stop my timer so it doesn't beep and while I'm reading a message. So I had, so for the write-in candidate for District 9, there's a write-in candidate, Cayo or Cayo. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. They gave their apologies. They, again, really tried to work their schedule to make it work, but gave them the opportunity to submit a statement. So they did. And as a side note to that, I remembered a lot of our council candidates have articles in the newspaper too, where they submitted stuff. So that's another resource for everybody. Because I remember reading both of theirs the other day for District 9. So do check those out too. But here's their statement. Okay. Hello all, I'm sorry I couldn't be with you tonight. As a young queer student, I am looking to further diversify our city council and create a space that's more accurately reflects the Crosse values. 30% of all greenhouse gases come from residential sources, but there are energy saving upgrades like insulation, air sealing, new windows, solar panels that would save my constituents money and reduce carbon emissions. La Crosse can make this happen by creating an on-bill upgrade program As a formerly homeless individual, the Housing First initiative is also very near and dear to my heart, and the only human first program to reduce and eliminate homelessness that does not create barriers for unsheltered community members. A large portion of my district is made up of renters, and creating protections for them, as well as forming a plan to ensure safe, affordable, accessible housing options would make District 9 and the whole of La Crosse a better place to live. Finally, I want to create a race and social justice vision and strategic plan to prioritize education, criminal justice, and equitable development. We need to be investing in restorative justice and community care initiatives, exclamation point. So in my opinion, the role of both neighborhoods and their associations is to act upon citizens' needs. The primary function is to encourage participation and create transparent communication between associations, organizations, and individuals, particularly regarding concerns about the neighborhood and its livability. Creating protections for tenants and investing in our unsheltered community are both ideas that align directly with livability initiatives proposed by these associations. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish I could be there with you. So that's their statement. And if I'm looking at all of my lists here,
That's everyone.
sorry. That's everyone. And I realize I need to share the name for the other person for District 11. I have it. It's just escaping me at the moment. I am terrible with names. It is, yes, Richard Korish. So that was the other person from District 11. So again, thank you to all of our speakers and our those who commented and gave their alibis. So any questions for anybody from the neighborhood group? It's 6:55. Okay. Eileen.
I would like to know any of the candidates that are still here, what their thoughts are on the north-south thoroughfare, and if they favor it, how do they expect to protect the wetlands?
Okay, Mitch has got his hand up.
Hi, thanks so much for the question. As I've said, that I am definitively and unequivocally opposed to any additional concrete lanes through our neighborhoods or the marsh in any kind of way. This is something that I've maintained from the beginning of this campaign. There is no benefit, no perceivable benefit from adding additional concrete lanes through our city, as the DOT has proposed for decades now. I am adamantly opposed to it. I have not vacillated on that in any kind of way. My opponent, and I want to make that very clear. So as long as I support the city council's resolution that was passed earlier this fall to take the enumeration out for that transportation plan for the city of La Crosse, and there will not be a road. So we won't have to protect our marshland from it because it simply will not be there. All additional lanes do is diminish our neighborhoods and make it easier for commuters from outside of our community to come in quicker and easier and commute to work. So yes, adamantly, definitively, unequivocally opposed to any road through the marsh or otherwise.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chris, did you still speak on that?
Yeah, just wanted to echo what Mitch said. I do not support that road through the marsh. I think we've made it clear throughout all our neighborhood associations that that's not something that we favor. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
And I just have a follow-up. Is it because we don't want outside people, more people coming in, like living outside coming in? Is that like the main thing? Or, you know, because obviously that would spur a lot of economic, I would think, a lot of economic activity, you know, in, out. Well, I was just wondering what the main driver, environmental or people coming in, out?
I know from my perspective as a neighborhood association, it's more the, yes, we want economic growth, but we don't want it at the expense of our really delicate habitat, not only our marshland habitat, but our neighborhood habitat. Because I really see our neighborhoods as habitats. And there's been destructive former planning, not this global planning, like it's across many, many cities have dealt with this, that they put these big highways through the heart of neighborhoods, just destroying them. And in the end, really hurting the cities that did that in the long run, because you saw this internal decay. We start rotting from the inside because we're trying to make it fast to get there. When really, are we shaving a handful of minutes off just to save a commuter who's spending their money and their taxes in Holman and on Alaska? Don't get me wrong, I got friends who live out there, but they want that fast commute down here. But I'm like, well, if you want the fast commute, come live here.
Yeah, very well said. I appreciate that.
Okay, perfect. Hopefully that.
So
that's
I don't know how to raise my hand. I apologize for butting in. But part of that plan is using 7th Street as a thoroughfare right past Hamilton School. And so this neighborhood has a specific reason to be against it. That we do not need a superhighway going by our elementary school. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, that's all I was going to bring up too, Phil. And 6th Street was the other side of it. It was going to be 7th and 6th, one ways.
Yeah, one ways down 6th and 7th, which would have decimated Washburn and PPH. And then again, Hamilton at being the heart of that. It's already hard enough for me to walk my kids across 7th Street.
Yeah.
With our amazing crossing guard. It would be Frogger out there. Sorry, the game reference.
Thank you. I appreciate the, I couldn't agree more with everyone.
No, that was a great, it's like I asked you to ask that question.
I was just thinking
perfect.
like right by Menards, why don't they just put a double-decker bridge, you know, right through the marsh and then like stop it right there so people can, you know, like, because a lot of these people are coming to the university and downtown, not necessarily to Gunderson, right past our neighborhood. You know, so like if we can just dump them off right there and then they can, I don't know, obviously that's city planning work there.
Got it.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in, this is Mackenzie, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I also don't know how to raise my hand, and I'm 28 years old. I should probably know how to raise my hand. I was just going to add, it's super impressive, Angela, that you are fully aware of the impacts of urban sprawl, and that is true. While we recognize that La Crosse is a center of commerce for a lot of outside neighborhood or outside communities, including those that are across the state, we also want to make sure that people that work in La Crosse are able to live in La Crosse, and that we don't incentivize necessarily the leaving the community, having residents leave the community to go live elsewhere and use this community as the primary service provider for them. So we recognize that it's important that they're using our healthcare. This is a major healthcare hub, education hub, a work hub, and that's important. But also we want to make sure that we are investing inside of our city. And it's true that we want people, you know, investing their money here as well, but we want them to invest their money here and to live here so that they're paying property taxes here as well. So the tax burden is spread across more people instead of the tax burden being spread across less people. We have 1,000 acres of developable land in La Crosse, and the tax burden is just like on a lot smaller amount of people than it needs to be, because we have historically, as you mentioned, planned cities in more of a segregated way, and adding a road through the marsh, not only does it have significant environmental impacts, it also creates further segregated and unwalkable neighborhoods and communities. And like Phil said, you know, creating incredibly difficult barriers to walk across to get to things like schools, or even like Jackson Street, you know, for children to walk across streets like that. They create further segregated neighborhoods. So for many reasons, we do not want a road going through the marsh or parts of our community.
Excellent dialogue. I feel like we're all on the same page. I like it. Any other questions before we'll, I want to make sure everyone's had a chance to ask, but we do have
Andy had
another.
she asked earlier, which was, landlords can do whatever they wish. What rights do renters have?
Thank you. I'm sorry, I almost forgot about that one. That's a very good one. Renters' rights has been a big topic I've heard people talk about, and is a big issue in our neighborhood and Washburn neighborhood because we have a high number of rentals. So have a way. I think I saw Mitch's hand go up.
Yeah, because I want to address this because one of the things that I've talked about is making sure that we have somebody who is like a liaison within City Hall to address the needs of renters specifically. Now there are some hidden links on the city website where you can go to and find some information if you're a renter, and then find the resources in order to understand what your rights are. There are other resources as well in our community for identifying what your rights are as a renter. That information's out there. It's just that it's really difficult to find. And most renters, I was a renter, like many of you or all of you. I've been a renter in those situations with a young family and a couple jobs. And I don't honestly never had the time to try to find resources to identify what my rights were. We need to do a better job within the city of La Crosse of understanding that renters are our citizens and that they are important to our community and that there are people in our neighborhoods and that we need to have a resource for them in City Hall so that we can reach out to them and make sure that they know what their rights are. I've also really appreciated the ideas about a renter's bill of rights. I'd like to look into that as well, but I'm not at this point, not sure whether that would be a position, a person, a job, a committee, whatever it would be, but it's very possible we could fund that through HUD grants, CDBG loans, or grants rather, and find a way where we have basically a renter resource human being in City Hall that could then proactively reach out to renters to make sure that they're identifying their rights. And landlords already know this stuff. They're pretty good at it. It's the renters that usually are struggling with the best information.
I raised my hand, but I don't know if anyone can see my hand raised.
Sorry, I was muted. I saw you learned how to use the hand raise, so we'll do Mackenzie next.
Thank you. Absolutely. I think that, we definitely want to see more stratified pricing in housing in general in our community, whether that is home ownership or rental units and rental availability. I think a lot of times renters are sort of like pointed at for the cause of all of our problems, but certainly we know that it's not necessarily true that the renter is causing the problem. We want to make sure that we can have less absentee landlords in our city, and I will say that we should have some sort of way to create checks and balances to ensure that there are no absentee landlords, or that we reduce the amount of absentee landlords that we have. And we want both tenants and property owners to have positive experiences in the city. Another thing I will say is that I would like to see somebody or a department in City Hall making sure that there are tenant rights, further to make sure that landlords aren't refusing housing based on race or discrimination. Most cities have civil rights departments that would house services like this. So I want to make sure that if we did create a position for this, or if we wanted to put this on to somebody, we wouldn't just drop it in the lap of the planning department, which I think can sometimes be a catch-all. We already know that they work extremely hard. So I would just want to make sure that, not that anyone has suggested this, but just to name that, to make sure that we, you know, investigate carefully how we would do that. And furthermore, I think that, you know, doing some more systems thinking around the impacts of urban sprawl and investing in our housing can help make sure that we are doing other things to mitigate some of the issues we see around absentee landlords. And certainly we know that there are some landlords that are good. So we know not all landlords are bad either.
Yeah, I would recommend, like, I just think a lot of, you know, renters, you know, don't know their rights. So, I mean, even if just like some information on like, here's your rights, you know, the lease is an actual legally binding document, like, you know, you can strike stuff out and, you know, just stuff like that. Not a lot of people know. So even just providing like information, if the city would provide information for that, I think that would just, you know, maybe eliminate a lot of stuff, you know, just, you know, maybe like, you know, Mitch, you said it's probably already out there, just maybe bringing that to light more.
I think exactly where it's there, but we all know there's a ton of amazing information, but it's taking the time and the resources, and right now most people are just they're working, you know, 2 to 3 jobs sometimes just to afford their rent. So who has time to try to figure out the rights when they're just trying to keep the roof over their head? So almost like a campaign to try to educate and get that information that's easier to find, and that's the tricky part. And Caroline also had made a comment in the chat section to say how, unfortunately, due to legislature by certain landlords, they've really are binding and making it hard that the state legislature passed legislation that's taken away a lot of rights of tenants and renters. So we'd have to get a change in state law in order to help our local stuff, because they tried to pass some legislature, I believe, here, but then they were sued or threatened with legislature, like it wouldn't hold up in court because the state would override it. So you have some and what's unfortunate is some of these landlords are very powerful and have a lot of money, and that makes it hard for the little guy. So I love to hear that you guys are trying to find a way for the little, I don't want to say little guy, not little person, but the unrepresented, to get the voice that they need. So I think that's what the key is giving them a voice. I see Dan pointing. I don't know if he's pointing at the right person.
Phil.
Oh, Phil. Okay, because I didn't know if the person to your right was to my right or not. So Phil had a statement.
Yes, thank you. Mackenzie still has, well, the confusion is in part because Mackenzie's hand still shows, so.
Oh.
I asked a question. I have something to say again, but go ahead, Phil.
I think she put them both back up. So I'm going to put both your hands down and I'll remember Mackenzie.
Okay, fine.
No, you go first, Phil. And then
if that's the way you're going to be, that's just fine. That's okay. So
help my confusion.
We had the inspection department did have systematic inspections of rental properties. So I don't remember what the period of time was, but that's what was attacked in Madison. So that those inspections could no longer go forward, or they have to be justified in advance is what it amounts to. So the only way, unfortunately, we've agonized over this multiple times over the last few years, but really the only way we can help a renter is if they complain to us. We have to hear them complain, and then we can go in and have an inspection and you know, a rights hearing if necessary and that sort of thing. So we've been kind of handcuffed by this state legislature. I'm done now. Thank you.
Okay, and Mackenzie.
That's a perfect lead into what I was about to mention. during my graduate program in Madison, I worked in racial equity and city planning and working to create a racial equity and social justice tool for city planning practices and comprehensive planning. In addition to that is tenant rights and working with the city of Madison with tenant rights. And so like Phil mentioned, you know, we need residents to file complaints so that we can go and address the issues. And on the other side, most tenants are afraid to bring up or complain about a certain situation that they have, because they're afraid that the landlord will, you know, like force them out of their housing under the table. You know, we have situations where, and this is disproportionately affecting people of color and women. We have landlords that will say, you know, like, I'm unhappy with this particular thing. I'll give you $300 if you're out by next week, but it's not documented. So these are some very significant issues, and we know that we have barriers in multiple sides and multiple levels. So with the state legislature, we know that people in power who are making some of these policies are property owners themselves, so that they're invested. We have a lot of elected officials all over the world who own property, and there's certainly some conflicts of interest there. So yes, just recognizing, I don't have the solution for this right now. I'm not going to give you like a magic answer, but just naming that these are very complicated and complex issues, and it's not going to take a linear, you know, solution to solve them, but we'll have to definitely work together to creatively address them.
Very good. We are coming up at about an hour into the forum. I hate to cut it short, but there's so much great dialogue going on here, but I know we have kind of another, kind of hot topic option in our neighborhood. Were there any last minute questions, burning questions that just can't wait and you'd like to address? Or if people feel comfortable with what we've heard tonight? Nope, I'm checking my hands. I don't see any little hands at the bottom. Checking the comments, because I saw a couple comments come up. Thanks from Mitch. And then Caroline, always with great info. Landlords can raise rents at the end of a lease term unless it's subsidized, and there may be rent controls. So there's just a lot of factors, complex factors, and unfortunate factors. So great discussion. Great. I think we've got, impressed with everybody this evening. A lot, future is bright. This is what we're working with. So this is good. This is great. So I want to wish all of you good luck. And even if for some reason you're not elected, I want you to stay involved. That's what we need, is that people don't go away. Stay the course. And I think we benefit from all of your guys' leadership, guys and gals leadership in our neighborhoods. So with that, thank you. You're welcome to stick around, or if you have to head out, totally understand. But we're now going to shift focus a little bit